Hi guys, how Mary meets everybody. It's MicheleMarieDalene. It is the Saturday, it's the 19th, and I wanted to talk to you about a couple things, and I'm going to be respectful of everybody. I'm going to try to keep this, calm, but it has to do with a couple of comments I've been getting on my channel and how I feel about some of those comments. Number one, the first comment says that I'm a lousy news commentator. Well, first of all, I never said I was a news commentator. I'm actually more of the engineer that works in the background, that maintains the equipment, and keeps the show on the road. I've been looking for commentators for my channel for a while now, and I have not found too many who want to do the job, because I'm not a big channel who has ability to pay salary employees. They're not going to come crawling out of woodwork for an opportunity, because let's be honest, money talks, shit walks. You know that, I know that, so that's why we don't have a commentator, which means, of course, that I need to produce the whole program for myself from top to bottom. Number two is those people who seem to complain the most vociferously. I keep asking myself, why are you still here? If you hate my presentation so much, why are you still here? You must not really hate me that much, because obviously you're still here. What's the story? Okay? Number three, the racism business. I'm not a racist. I've already said that to you. And it seems that a good portion of those who are alleging that I'm a racist are very much moderates and anti-conservatives. Okay? So, I'm sorry if my content is not going to support abortion. It's not going to support giving free migrants, free healthcare, free housing, free everything. I'm sorry, it doesn't support the George Soros agenda. It's just me, okay? But, just like I said with the second group, if you don't like my content, why are you still here? Okay? Now, our main topic for today is we were going to talk about on Sunday about backup energy system ideas that could be done by people who live in apartments or maybe on a shoestring budget. And I did some research into some of this idea. And if you want to go with solar panels, a charge controller, and a and a battery to run, say, LED strip lights or LED under the counter lights that go in on 12 or 24 volts. There is several systems available. The problem is that when you look at the standard rule of thumb for the different types of battery powered storage systems, it becomes almost borderline ridiculous. Here's your short, simple idea. If you have a 100-watt solar panel, you would say, oh, okay, I can take 100 watts of power out of my panel one time when my batteries are full. Nope, it don't work that way. I wish it was that simple. But the truth is, what I have found out is, it's going to always take the battery, or it's going to hit your battery bank first. Okay? Now, so you might say, well, gee, if it's 100 watts an hour, and they say, oh no, take 100 watts per hour and divide it by, in this case, a 24-hour day, okay, which is about 20 watts an hour. Okay? And then you go, what? Then, depending on the size of your battery bank, you got, say, a sealed lead acid battery, 100 amp hours, figure the same thing. Convert amp hours to watt hours, it come up to be 1200. Now, they say you don't want to go any below 70%. So, or 50%. That's 600. Now, take 600 and, just to make the math easy, divide it by 20 hours, and it comes out to be something like 30 watts every hour you can drain on your battery before you cause significant plate degradation. Now, that's ridiculous, because that means that you're running a couple of those little solar LED light strips. What is it? So like 1 watt per meter, and you're figuring anywhere from 1 watt to 4 watts per meter in your apartment, and you got, say, one room that's going to have about 15 meters. That means that 1 watt is 15 watts, which means you can technically run 2 light strips on at the same time before it damages your battery power cells. And that's ridiculous, because that's not going to be practical, given the price per watt. You're going to be getting very little storage with lead acid. Lithium ion batteries, well, we already saw what happened with the 777s with lithium ion. You really want to have a whole room full of those things in your home and your solar system? Well, they are good for energy density, but unfortunately, the price tag is a bit high. Now, the other thing too, what about nickel metal hydride? Another choice. What's not as energy dense is lithium ion.
Get off of there.
What?
Talking to Rise.
Oh, that's the cat. Dory's cleaning the house at the same time in her section, her art room. So what I'm trying to say is, nickel metal hydride batteries are, of course, not as energy dense as lithium ion, but they may be a little bit less expensive. I don't know about big, large ones, but given the new FAA rules regarding transporting a lithium ion, it might be cheaper to go ahead and ship those batteries to a local in-state distributor that paid all the paper registration and all the duties and taxes and stuff before you buy them from overseas. Now, if you're a large-scale importer for lithium ion, it may be worth it to pay for the licensing and registration, but for most people, they're not going to go there. Okay, so lithium ion, because the regulations has gotten a little bit ridiculous, is one of the people I study watching about batteries and power walls and things like that covers. The two most common battery systems, as I said, you'll sometimes see in solar panels are wet cell flooded batteries and the absorbed glass mat, or HEM batteries. HEM batteries are great because they can be used in any position. They don't need water, they don't need any kind of maintenance. You just basically can plug them in, and as long as you're properly charging the batteries, they will continue to provide power, happily running your equipment. The same is true with our phone system here, is that our backup power supply that runs our internet has a sealed lead acid HEM battery in it that I have never had to replace, because normally it doesn't kick onto battery unless we have a power failure, and then it switches over to battery. And it's only a 12 volt output, so it's not like there's a big inverter involved in the system. And so it keeps our home internet here working fine. But for what I was going to do would require a much larger battery bank. Extremely large battery bank, to the point where it almost became non-competitive to go with that system. Since we're talking about backup power, what about those tap light things that we see sometimes, or those puck lights that you can buy that still stick in the AA, AAA batteries for backups? Well, those work fine. I mean, for short times, and they're not super bright, but they will be fine for when you're in the bathroom, so you can see what you're doing in the morning if there's power failure for. But cooking dinner under those things, and my friend Ed had a couple of those in his kitchen, and it was okay, but his choice of position of the light really made it really hard to see when you're cooking. So I think that a proper placement of the lights would be key if you're going to make advantage of battery-powered low-lumen lighting as well. It's the same thing in the studio here. I mean, I have two 300-watt incandescent bulbs here. If I want to get the most bang out of my bucks, makes sense to position the light in such a way that the majority of the light is going to land where I want it. In this case, on the subject, which is me. Okay? So the same thing is going to be true if you're running any kind of emergency lighting system. Is you got to optimize the pros versus cons. How much is it going to cost you to build it? How long are you expecting to get power from it? And what's the downfalls? Now, I didn't mention generators or any other kind of mechanical energy systems because of a couple of reasons. We're talking about apartment renters, not necessarily homeowners. Now, obviously, if you own your home and you're going through and install a proper photovoltaic system, big scale, so pretty much your house would be off grid, and you're going to spend, several, tens of thousands of dollars, a big power system, big battery bank, big solar panels. This is definitely not the video for you. If you're a person on a shoestring and you're trying to figure out how to make do with what little you have, that's the one I'm trying to talk to, is how to make the best of a minimalist circumstances. As I said, okay, I don't have a calculator right here. Oh, yes I do. Alright, but we don't need a calculator right now. Alright, so if you're figuring, I think you made a mistake in the math. You sure? Because you said that a lead-acid battery, right, they say you don't want to go below 50% charge. Correct. So if the battery in this example was 100 amp hours, right, okay, and so if it was 100 amp hours times 12 volts, that's 1,200 watt hours, right? So 50% of that is 600 watt hours. So you're figuring you're going to be running the battery pretty much for 20 hours. That's the worst case scenario. Okay? So 600 watt hours divided by 20 is 30. Okay, you're not wrong. Okay, but if you're only using it for, say, 10 hours in a day, the energy density means you can easily draw 60 watts. 60 watt hours. But that's only one day, though. That's not for, if you have several days of power failure, and then you got to consider how much can you produce in power but the battery panel, the solar panel, is going to produce, it's 100 watts, it's 1,200, that's watts already, that's right, 30 watts. 5 hours is 500 watts. Right. Okay. So we already calculated that given that you're going to be making about a 20 watt surplus that goes back into the batteries and stores it for nighttime mode. So the sad truth is to create a good solar system. Even something just to run a couple of low voltage LED light strips for a long period of time is going to require easily 2 or maybe 300 amp hour batteries to properly keep them from volts going down below 50%, which can cause significant battery cell damage. So, yeah, it gets ridiculous, especially when you price out a 100-watt solar panel, 100 amp hour battery. We're talking about $120 a battery. That's $360. Now, $360 for 3 batteries, and then obviously, I already know one 100-watt solar panel is not going to charge those batteries fast enough. So, you're at about $110 per panel. Now, you're going to spend, in addition to $360 for the batteries, you're going to spend another $360, give or take, for the solar panels. That's $720. And it does not include the charge controller. If you're lucky, you might be able to get one for, maybe $30, $40. It doesn't include cables. It doesn't include the fuse blocks. It doesn't include interconnects. It's just the panels and the batteries. It doesn't include the mounting brackets to mount it to your roof or to a pole or to whatever. So you're going to spend, say, $1,000 to possibly give you as much power as for 3 or 4 days, just one LED light strips on a ceiling during power failure. It's asinine. It's great because it's quiet. But the sad truth is that it's not practical. Generators are mechanical energy systems. I will mention generators really quick. They are good for backup purposes. However, one of my things I discovered from working with the generator we had, which rusted to high hell, is you got to have a good quality generator. I'm not talking about no Chinese piece of shit. I'm talking a generator, quality one, that has a fairly stable frequency and doesn't have a lot of fluctuation of frequency control. That's going to cost you money. If you got an electric stove, it's got to be strong enough to drive your electric stove. That means possibly a house system, which is professionally installed, that runs either on propane or natural gas. You can run it on diesel, of course, but then that adds fumes. You got to have a storage tank. Of course, if you have heating oil, you can run it off heating oil as well, obviously. If you can run diesel, you can run on heating oil. But most people don't think like that. And it's going to add to the cost. And that's certainly not something that an apartment dweller is going to do. An apartment dweller does not have that kind of flexibility, and if you really want to go that way, that's going to cost you more money because of building permits and planning and zoning, and it's not practical. A portable putt is not going to be a good choice for sensitive electronics because those things will be trashed. I have unfortunately found out exactly what happened with one of my eMacs. I plugged it into the generator and it totally blew up a whole bunch of electrolytics inside the power supply. And totally turned that computer, which was at the time a halfway decent machine, into a basket case of totally unreliability. And we're having the same problem now with the iMac, but that's not because of bad generator power. It's just because by bad age of the computer components. Ironically enough, this iMac or this Power Mac G5 has not been affected, but then again, I was not running that on the generator. I think the generator would have had a cardiac arrest trying to run 750 watts, considering it was only a 1500 watt generator. So it definitely would not have had enough power to run it. It can't even run an electric heater without basically taking a nosedive, despite the fact that they had a power factor of 1, which is actually the best you can get for power factor. So I really was really surprised by that. So I'm going to still consider it for the future, but I don't think at this point it's feasible. Now, in that project, that is up for grabs. It's up for grabs. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. Has to do with a phone system. This here is the older Merlin phones, and they've been pretty good. The best 22Ds, they're a little grubby, but they're not bad phones. One of the things is I would like to do with these is upgrade to the newer MLX phones, and I just saw a bid on eBay for it's buy now for a lot of secondhand office phones with 10D BIS phones, and I saw a nice MLX 20L phone, which is usually a tennis console, and that wasn't cheap, but that's because most people today just usually do it by the software on their computers. And I also saw another from the same company I bought the first one, the Clear One X8PTH2. They had another one for sale for the same price I paid for mine. And I said to myself, gee, this would be kind of nice because now I would be able to handle chats on both phone lines. But then again, I realized that what the bad trouble we've been having in the last few months with some of these callers, it just kind of soured the milk for me. I really, really didn't feel it was worth my time to invest in getting a second phone and set up, because the quality of the phone calls that were coming in were just atrocious, to the point where I felt less and less impressed by what I was getting. Now, I talked to the girl named Blue Iris in chat, and I explained to her that I wasn't really upset with her at all. It was just that I was a little upset is that I spent all this time to take these phone calls after everybody wants me to take phone calls, and not one of the phone calls was on the subject that we were discussing. And I know that the subject was a shootout, boring thing, like our Lebanese 30 says. She said what you need is a better introduction to the subject. And I said, well, that's a great idea, but I don't think that far ahead. As I said, I'm not really a good commentator. I'm just a person who normally, the Sparky that puts everything back together and makes it all work. And that's the reason why it's never gonna, make sense to me. So the deal is, folks, is I'm very sorry if you found this conversation to be something that makes you upset or anything. But at least I can say I try. And as I've always said to myself, and several people agree with me on this. He said, well, obviously they must like your content enough they're still here. And I asked him, but they hate my content. And he said to me, well, no, actually, I don't think they hate your content. I think that's a lie. I think they actually like your content. But maybe they want you to make your content a little bit better. I said, well, I'm always willing to make my content a little bit better, but the problem is I'm not always sure how to make my content a little better. See, that's a little different. It's not that I'm not saying I don't want to make my content better. I'm saying I'm not sure how I'm supposed to make my content better. I don't know where to start making my content better. And so I think part of the problem is to me, as a person with Asperger's, I'm so used to thinking so deep into a subject. To me, like power generators and backup power and gas lights and gas refrigerators and interior design and Art Deco. That stuff excites me. The problem is that it would bore most people because most people don't want to get to that level of detail. They just kind of, like when you lose power for 6 hours, the first thing that they're going to ask is, how am I supposed to cook food? which is a good question. All right, so tomorrow we have our live stream on the porch, and it's going to be on the porch because of two reasons. Number one, it gives a better TV signal on the porch. Of course, we could do it in the building too, but if we did it inside with the phones, right, there would be no phone calls because it's very difficult to plug our microphone equipment into the other system. Correct. It's very difficult to do that. It could be done. It could be done. But unfortunately, the phone that works great with OTG and would allow us to do that is unfortunately does not have a stand to stand it up on a tripod. Which is the LG M210. But we can get the bracket, we can get the OTG cable that provides the ability to charge a phone, as well as allow the regular standard USB charger to provide power for the devices. We're looking into that option. I guess that's about it for today. I'm sorry I didn't do a vlog this morning. I got up late. I did go to the soup kitchen. My friend was there. Patty was there. We talked. And I spent time with Patty and Dory. And then, of course, me and Patty went for a quick drive. And then I came back here. And I was just feeling kind of tired. I saw so many hateful comments. And, that really kind of made me feel bad, and so I turned off the notification for the Google Studio. I said, I don't want to see any more notifications. I don't want to hear any more bad notifications. I don't want to see any more bad news reports. I don't want to see any of that shit. I just want to quietly just try to do what I'm going to do. As far as so-called making my channel private, no, it's not going to remain a private channel. It's going to be a channel it's just going to be right now. Because, as YouTube told me, you're in good standing. There's nothing wrong with your channel. Your channel is small, but it's not a bad channel. So I'm not going to change my status on my channel. Okay? I'm not going to make it private. I'm not going to make it unlisted. Because obviously, even the haters keep watching it. So I'm going to suspect that the haters actually are really lovers. But instead of actually trying to encourage positive discussion to improve on things, they decided to use the worst kind of discussion of all, being critics. I'm sorry that you're so critical of a channel that's really was kind of created basically the way it is. But, hey, gotta cut me a little slack here, guys. I'm not exactly rolling in the dough. Okay? I'm 50 years old. I have a bad hip. I have bad ankles. I am trying to walk around, and I'm doing my best I can to keep going. And sometimes it's really painful. By the way, there was supposed to be the pet parade today. It's obviously been rained out. The soup kitchen, I also want to let you know this, has said to me, or actually I've heard this from other people, not the actual soup kitchen staff, but they have said to me that there's concern that the Saturdays are not having enough people coming in for lunch. That there's concern if the soup kitchen is going to go ahead and stop doing Saturday lunches. Now, that's a problem because for a lot of people, there's really not too many soup kitchens anymore that do Saturdays. In our immediate area, New Hartford does not have one, Colebrook does not have one, Norfolk does not have one, Canton doesn't have one. These towns it's great if you have a car, you have more flexible choices. But Winston is one of the last of the small ones that does have at least some weekend service. Torrington does have weekend, but Torrington has a huge issue of too many people, and it's crowded in there, and it's really, really hard to focus, especially if you are a person that may have problems with Asperger's or some forms of autism. Getting in there is like trying to, it's like extremely excruciating emotionally. On the other hand, it also is a problem too if you have no cars to Torrington, because there's no buses that run on Saturday or Sunday. So because there's no buses on Saturday and Sunday, if you live in downtown Winsted, you couldn't go to Torrington Soup Kitchen even if you chose to, unless you have a friend that has a car. I've been wanting to try to get the Soup Kitchen staff to come on camera and we could discuss this. I know that R11H30 in his interview wants to be at the Soup Kitchen. I told him to call the Soup Kitchen to confirm the Saturday he's coming up, if they're going to be open. And perhaps maybe he could ask them if he would like them to have a chance to promote their Soup Kitchen cause to other people who watch the film for donations, and also to have more people come into the Soup Kitchen for a meal. It would be a great idea to see more people come to the Soup Kitchen. But for now, I want to thank you for watching this. I know it's probably not the most exciting, but hey, it happens. Anyway, so I'll see you on Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time outside. It'll be high at 24 degrees Celsius. It will be thunderstorms, but I don't know if it's going to be thundering when I'm doing my video. It could be. You never know. And of course, the same thing for Wednesday and the same thing for next Sunday at this point will be on the porch as well. Because I really would rather be outside and get away from the phones, because the phones give me real bad anxiety problems, and I really can't handle the phones. So, I mean, honestly, if you are trying to call for the phones and stuff, please understand that I have real bad anxiety with the phones on the show. I try to have the phones on the show, but it really pushes my anxiety just way too much. So I'm sorry if it's upsetting you, but I just want to clear that up. Okay, bye bye.